Okay, we're here. It's time to write a book. You got your huge advance. You've gotten all that good stuff negotiated, and you're on to the next thing, and that is a 300-page document that gets packaged, and we kill a lot of trees, and then it gets sent out, and then you make your millions of dollars. But you need to actually write it. And this is actually in some ways my favorite time of being an author, is the actual authoring of stuff. And I said at the very first video this wasn't going to be about craft, and I'm not going to give you the ability to genesis new ideas or give you the next big idea. But I will say a little bit from my experience as someone who has written 3 books and is now in the middle of his 4th book, is that structure is really, really important. And it really makes the difference between being sort of lost in the project and bringing it to a speedy and efficient conclusion. Now, in your proposal, there's this section called the chapter outline where you should have already thought very deeply about your structure. In this, there, introduction, your first chapters, sort of building to an emotional crescendo, a climax, and then the denouement and the ending of the book. The general sort of arc of every good narrative. You've already, by this point, outlined at least. You have the skeleton of what it is that you're going to work on, and all that time that it spent to put that book proposal together, which could have been months, to actually make a really good book proposal. Now you have that, and what I would suggest first is to purchase and download a program called Scrivener. That's Scrivener. It's just a really good program for organizing long book projects. This is not something you want to write in Word because there's all these chapters, and sometimes you'll want to refer to one chapter and then the other chapter in the same screen. Just trust me, Scrivener's great. Your first day using it, you're going to be totally confused. You're like, I hate Scott. Throw this out. I want to stay in Word because I'm so comfortable in it. Push through, give it a week, and you'll start to see that it's able to organize, big documents much more efficiently than Word. And so you bought Scrivener, you've got a kick-ass outline, and you have a book you need to deliver usually in about a year for nonfiction. For fiction, actually, you probably already wrote the book, and then you sold it to publishers. So, hey, you're done. But anyway, you've got your outline, you've got Scrivener, and now you need to set yourself a schedule for what to write. Now, it's very frequent for people who are taking on book projects to sort of get in this sort of wasting mode where they're suddenly their stomach drops into their feet and they're like, oh my God, I have to deliver this document. And I've never written something like this long before. And in their heads, they take on the entire project all at once. And it really sort of stops them from pushing and proceeding. And what I want to suggest is that your structure that you have already designed probably already has the main components that you're going to need in your book already. You already know what's going to be in the chapter. And what you need to do is just write the damn thing. Like, seriously, sit down and write it, and write it terribly. Make it bad. Like, don't even worry, because what you're doing is, if you've got a skeleton already, you're just putting flesh on it, but you just need the flesh there. My method for this is the 500 word a day method. I sit down and I bang away on my computer, and after I have 500 words done, I am done for the day. Or I can write more if I feel like it, but you really have to do a minimum of 500 words a day during weekdays. So 5 days a week, you get your weekends off, and you also get holidays off. Now, if you do this, you have a book. If you just went in one line, one straight line, you have a book which is about 80,000 words in 8 months, because that's the way the math works. 500 words a day, or during weekdays equals 8 months book. Now, it's going to be a bad book. It's going to be a crappy book. But if you followed your outline and you followed that arc as you went through, then the the thing that keeps the readers hooked is already there. And the next step is just editing. You know, you go back and you start fixing the things that are broken, but at least you know the whole arc is there. Now, what a lot of people will do is instead they'll just start typing and they'll write a sentence and they'll look back and they say that sentence sucks, and they'll go back and they'll tweak it and they'll make that sentence perfect, and they'll go to the next sentence and write it and they realize it doesn't work with the first sentence, and it's sort of this recursive back and forth where you don't really make any progress. My suggestion is just make a bad book, realize that you're going to have to spend some time editing, and then go do that. And then once you really do have a manuscript, it's surprising how much actually works out. I mean, I've done this sort of rough draft crap chapter thing a couple times. When I've gone back and I read it, I was like, oh, actually, I only have to change a little bit, like put 3 or 4 hours worth of work into this 20-page chapter, and then it was like good to go. And it's something I wouldn't have seen if I had just started and you know, sort of tried to work with the details before I worked with the large macro things. And yeah, so that's my advice for writing a book. Take it as you will. Everyone does have a different process. You know, you might find that, hey, you have to do it this way. You know, Vonnegut, for instance, was the one sentence writer. His rule was he would write one sentence and be sure it was perfect, and then go to the next sentence. And his rule was he would never go backwards. He would never edit his books. He would just go forward. He'd be sure that every sentence was perfect, like a building block, and he couldn't edit it. You know, I don't know. That sounds crazy to me. But if that works for you, that works for you. Remember, don't miss your deadline. You have a year to write the book. Get it done.